Hi again, everybody. Welcome to Game Time, presented by Tower Hill Insurance. It is week 4, and the Gators, another week, another top 5 opponent. Down to Miami Gardens, the Gators go to face 4th-ranked Miami. Hi again, everybody. I'm Sean Kelley. Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com is alongside. The Canes have a new quarterback at the helm, but one that we're all familiar with, former Georgia Bulldog, Carson Beck. What have you noticed about the Hurricanes here through their first couple of weeks?
Well, I've noticed a lot of good things, Sean, and let's start with Carson Beck on offense. You wondered how he would do with this second chance after playing at Georgia and, having some success there, but ultimately deciding to leave and come down to Miami, and he's rolling. He got over 800 yards through 3 games. He just looks like a veteran presence for that offense to add stability and leadership. And I'm guessing if you were to talk to Mario Cristobal, Carson Beck is given them exactly what they had hoped he would, giving them solid play, giving them leadership, and just giving them production. And, when I looked at that team right now, it's a well-balanced team with the running game with Mark Fletcher Jr. and Carson Beck running the show at quarterback. It's a formidable challenge for Florida's defense, or any defense for that matter.
No doubt. Fletcher's carried the ball 42 times now on the season, already at 272 yards rushing, and he's averaging just over 6 yards per carry. Meanwhile, Carson Beck with 7 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. I think importantly here for Beck is that he's completing nearly 80% of his passes. Again, some of that gauging against the type of competition that they faced, but the Canes do find themselves number 4 in the country. Defensively, they're led by a guy that we saw just briefly last year in the meeting with the Florida Gators. That's Rueben Bain Jr. He is the top of just about every defensive category, and he plays defensive line.
Yes, he's a monster up front, and he, in the swamp last year when Miami came here, we only saw him for a few plays, and he left the game with a soft tissue injury, I think is how they described it. Never saw him again, and you thought at the time, well, that's a plus, but unfortunately that game turned out to be Cam Ward's day, and the Gators lost. But now they're going to have to face Rueben Bain, and he's already got a breakup, an interception. He's got a sack. He's got 15 tackles. He's doing everything up front for the Canes. And as I said, this is a well-balanced team. You look at it offensively and defensively. They have playmakers on both sides. And when you look at that defense, that's going to be a challenge for Florida's offensive line. And we've seen some inconsistency there. We've seen some of the penalties that we talked about earlier. They're going to be tested to, kind of overcome some of that to really have an effective performance against this defense.
Kickoff scheduled for 7:30, more like 7:40. Prime time on ABC with their lead crew. And, of course, the ball game will be on the Gator Sports Network from Learfield with Shane Matthews, Tate Casey, and myself. Scott Carter will have full coverage at FloridaGators.com. For Scott Carter, I'm Sean Kelley. Enjoy the game, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for Game Time, presented by Tower Hill Insurance.